Losing weight in a calorie deficit is hard, and I would argue trying to keep it off afterwards is even harder. I have messed this up so many times. So in today's video,
I'm going to take you through what I eat in a day as a nutritionist to maintain my fat loss progress after going through a huge fat loss at the end of last year. And in this video, you're going to learn about the steps I'm following so you can implement the same system to avoid gaining all of the weight back after a diet phase.
So towards the end of last year, I did a photo shoot, which I lost around 12 pounds for. And I was so happy with how the shoot turned out. These are some of the photos from the photo shoot. I was really happy with my progress, and doing that shoot for me wasn't about being the leanest version of myself or being absolutely shredded, which sometimes when people do photo shoots, that's the look that they're going for. Yes, I still want a lean and strong physique, but how I hold my fat and weight and my body type, like I'm never going to be shredded, or my body isn't going to be healthy being shredded all the time. So that photo shoot for me was, just basically showing up as the most confident and strongest person of myself while still literally feeling amazing, feeling lean. So I want to maintain that physique, which is realistic. Like I said, I didn't get absolutely shredded and diet down to the smallest version of myself, which I've done before. And like I said, that doesn't really fit me, what I stand for, what I help my clients with. So it just made sense for me to show up that way. And like I said, I want to maintain that physique. So since the photo shoot, which was like the end of November, we've had Christmas and all these different things. And I've done really well at maintaining my progress, considering as well, I've had so many socials. December, there was socials everywhere. Obviously it was like Christmas time. Then in January, I had my boyfriend's birthday, my birthday, just loads of different events, but I've done so well at maintaining my progress. And that's what I want to share with you today. Obviously show you what I'm eating, how I'm eating, and the steps that I follow to maintain the physique that I have. So this photo here was taken last week, which was the start of February. And this photo was the day of my photo shoot. So if I put them side by side, I think I've done pretty well at, maintaining a similar physique. So we're on track, my friends, because like I said, I've done it so many times before where I've dieted down and I've just let things slip afterwards and you end up regaining all of the weight again. And I wasn't going to do that this time. So that's what's in store for us. I'm going to make breakfast and then I'm going to chat about some of the sciencey bits, some of the variables that I feel like we need to understand about why is it we tend to gain weight after a calorie deficit, after a dieting phase. So I'll make breakfast, I'll show you what I'm having, and then we'll break down the science, okay? Because it's important. I want you to be well educated and understand everything so you can implement the same system as me. Okay, we have brekkie. Honestly, breakfast is my favourite meal of the day. I just, one, love to eat as soon as I wake up because I'm hungry and I love food and I want to eat. And two, I just love breakfast food. So we've got lads going on, my friends. We've got some carbs with the toast. We've got cottage cheese, protein. We've got some protein and fats from 2 eggs. Then we've got some micronutrients from the berries. These are full of antioxidants and help keep us nice and healthy. We've also got some fibre from the sourdough, I think it's like wholemeal rye or wheat or something like that. So we've got fibre in the bread that I've chosen and also from the berries. So this together is gonna help keep me full, satiated, because we've got a mix of carbs, protein, fats, and fibre in there as well. And this is basically what makes a healthy, balanced meal. The components of this meal, and probably the meal in general, is very close to how I was eating in a calorie deficit. In a calorie deficit, we still want all of those things: protein, fat, carbs, fibre. We still want the same moving out of a fat loss period as well. We want to be eating in that way no matter what phase we're in, whether we're in a dieting phase, maintenance phase, even a calorie surplus if we're looking to gain weight and build muscle. Yeah, very similar breakfast, but this is what I'm currently eating most days. I prefer more of a savoury breakfast because I find things like oats, or let's say I had like protein pancakes, I find that it kind of spikes my blood sugar and it kicks off my cravings for the day. So naturally I have like a really big sweet tooth. Even if it's got protein in it, I just find having an overly sweet meal and like a heavy carbohydrate meal sets my cravings off for the day, which we don't want. But something like this is perfect to keep you full, satiated, and keep your cravings at bay.
Guys, how cute is this mug? Give that a little wipe. I have actually had a coffee this morning. This is number 2 before we sit down and have a chat. But how cute is this mug? I got it from Asda, and I just love a cute little mug. Like, I just love it. I've also lost a nail. Cry. Well, that's 2. So I'm going to have to go get them fixed. But how cute is she? So yeah, we're going to have a coffee. Number 2. Got my coffee, let's get comfy. Let's just explain what reverse dieting is so you understand what this whole video is about and what I'm currently doing to maintain my progress, to maintain my physique. Because I feel like the reason why so many people get this wrong is because they don't understand what's actually going on with the body when they lose fat, and basically how to come out of a diet phase without regaining it all back. And then that leads people to thinking that the metabolism is broken, that the body isn't responding well, and they've ruined everything because they've dieted, and something wrong with them because they've regained all the weight. And then you feel like you can't actually maintain that physique that you want so bad. And I am here to tell you that you can. You just need to do the right things post diet to maintain your progress. Obviously, the diet phase is really important because that's what gets you the progress. But I would argue this is even more important to understand so you don't regain it all back again. And then you're stuck in this cycle of losing, gaining, losing, gaining. And there's nothing more frustrating. Let's talk about the first step, the first principle that I'm doing in this reverse diet. And that is structuring my meals in the same way as I did when I was in a fat loss phase. In order for my fat loss phase to be successful, every meal that I had, I wanted to feel full. I wanted to have as much energy as I could and maximize that meal for the amount of calories that I was having. And the way that we do that is by creating a balanced meal. So what you've just seen there with breakfast, I had protein, carbs, fat, and some micronutrients as well. I've got some fibre in there, and all of those components make a balanced meal, which is going to keep me full, it's going to keep me satiated, and it's going to give me energy. And that's everything I was doing in my diet phase. The only difference with these meals is I'm on slightly more calories to what I was when I was in a diet phase, but the structure of your meals should be the same. Now, the problem is what a lot of people do is they go back to their old habits. Maybe they was having a similar meal to me for breakfast, and then they go back to having 2 slices of toast. Then they get hungry mid-morning, then they end up going to the cupboard and having 3 biscuits, and that just sets them off for the day, eating more calories because they haven't had a balanced meal which is going to keep them full and satiated. So you'll notice throughout my video, most of my meals are always balanced. We've got some protein, carbs, and most of the time some fats in there as well. And I've always got some form of fiber in my meal as well. So that's the first thing. We want to keep the macronutrient structure, so protein, fat, and carbs, the same in our reverse diet, the same as we did when we was dieting. We're not doing anything drastically different to what we was when we were in a fat loss phase. And doing that with every meal is going to balance your blood sugar properly throughout the day, keep you full, keep you energized, and means that you're not just going to be overeating hundreds and hundreds of calories, which is where you're going to regain weight quickly again. So before I take you through the rest of my day showing you what I'm eating and all of the other important points which help me in this reverse diet, I just want to talk about what reverse dieting is and explain it so you understand what you're actually doing post diet. So all of the steps that I'm going to give you in this video, you can take them on board, you understand them, and you can put everything into practice. So the reason people do a reverse diet is the same reason that I've spoke about in this video. They do a reverse diet so they don't regain all of the weight that they've just lost in the diet phase. There's two ways that you can do a reverse diet. You can either slowly bring your calories back up to maintenance, which is the approach that I'm doing and I like, and I think that's the right thing to do for my body and how the start of my year has looked, which I'll explain later in the video. Or what some people do, as soon as they finish the diet, they make an estimation of what they think their maintenance calories are and go straight back to maintenance. So let's say they were eating 1,500 calories in a calorie deficit and they were losing weight. They might just go straight back to eating 2,000 calories, which they predict their maintenance to be. So there's two different ways that you can do it. I'm doing it the first way that we spoke about. The reason I'm doing that is because when I finished my diet phase and did my photo shoot, it was December, and I had so many socials around Christmas, around New Year, and then into January as well. And so me and my coach that I'm working with decided that we're going to do it in a gradual way. And as you can see from my progress photos, it's worked, and this has been like the best way for me. What's important to note with a reverse diet is once you finish a diet, your body is not burning the same calories as it was before you started dieting. Most people think that they regain the fat that they've lost after a diet phase because the metabolism is broken. What happens is actually much simpler than that. During a diet phase, your body adapts. You weigh less, so you burn less calories. Your body doesn't need as much energy as it did when you weighed more because there's less of you now, so you burn less calories. You subconsciously move less. Your natural movements that you would have done at the start of your diet, like what you do throughout the day, how much you fidget, how much you talk with your hands, you're going to do that a lot less at the end of your diet phase compared to at the start. And your hunger hormone also increases, which is our good friend ghrelin. So we're actually more hungry towards the end of a diet phase because that's how our body adapts when we're giving it less energy in a diet phase. Evidence shows that the longer that we're in a diet phase, the more our hunger hormone increases. All of these factors affect your total daily energy expenditure, and your total daily energy expenditure is now less than it was when you first started dieting. For example, before you started dieting, you might have maintained the physique that you had on 2,500 calories, but now because you've been through that diet phase, your new maintenance calories at the end of your diet might be 2,200 calories. If you finish a diet phase and go straight back to eating 2,500 calories a day, you're now putting yourself in a surplus. And it's really easy to do that post-diet phase. You think, I just want to chill, I just want a rest. And what happens is all of your habits that you had and you were doing so well during your diet phase, they start to slip. Your eating slips. The amount of steps that you do every day slips. You're not doing as much cardio now. Maybe you start missing some gym sessions. You stop structuring your meals properly to keep you full and satiated throughout the day. And this can all happen slowly, but then what you see slowly start to happen is you regain the weight again, the fat that you've lost in the diet phase. So instead of letting all of your habits slip, doing a reverse diet can help you keep all of those habits locked in and stop you regaining the weight that you've already lost. The goal of a reverse diet isn't to magically speed up your metabolism, it's to gently bring you out of your fat loss phase, keeping those habits locked in that you did so well in the fat loss phase to prevent you gaining fat again post-diet. And we do that by having a strategy in place post-diet, and that will help prevent regaining all of the weight. Hopefully that makes a little more sense on what reverse dieting is and why it's so important. So just to recap before we get into the rest of the video, the first principle I am focusing on in my reverse diet is keeping the same structure in my meals. I'm creating a balanced plate, a balanced meal. So I'm full, I'm satiated, I've got loads of energy, and so my blood sugar is balanced throughout the day. And if me talking about a balanced plate or macros and things like that feels confusing, then download my free training in the description, which runs you through how to balance your plate, how to feel full. The main aim of the training is maximizing it for a fat loss, but you can also apply it to a reverse diet.
Next meal of the day. It is lunchtime, my friends. We're digging for some meal prep. We're having harissa chicken pasta and broccoli, and it's time for the next step. Now, this one you don't have to do, but for me, it's one of the best ways. It's one of the things that's helped me so much in this reverse diet, do it properly, and that is tracking calories and macros. So obviously the first point I spoke about structuring your meals properly. So in this meal we've got protein from the chicken, carbs from the pasta, and fiber because I've chosen whole wheat pasta. Also we've got fiber and macronutrients from the broccoli. There's also peppers in here, tomatoes, and there's also some fats from the harissa paste. Again, this is a lovely balanced meal. But yeah, structuring your meals is so important. And one of the best ways for me, I find, and the strategy I use with my clients as well, is I get them to track their calories and macros, but also looking at the foods and the ingredients that they're using as well, because you can track your calories and macros, but you can still eat a load of crap basically, which isn't good because that can lead to like lots of inflammation and poor gut health and things like that. And we want to avoid that. We want to be as healthy as possible. And you can track your calories and your macros and you can still be healthy. It just means that you still know what you're eating day to day. So the reason it's so helpful for me, one, because I'm a greedy gal. Even though I can successfully structure my meals, you know, I don't need a tool to tell me how to do that. I know how to do that. And don't get me wrong, I can guesstimate my calories because I've tracked for so long, but I like to know what I'm eating, the goals that I'm hitting to make sure that this reverse diet phase goes exactly how I want it to. It removes that guesswork. A lot of the time people are really frustrated with the results, whether it's a deficit, whether it's a reverse diet. They don't see the results that they want to see, and it's because you might slack on different things. So you might start overeating between meals, or you know, let's say you're not weighing out your food or tracking your calories, things like that. You might be structuring your meals properly, but you still could be overeating. You know, if I didn't weigh out my pasta, I could be adding like an extra 100 calories to that. If I didn't weigh out the fats that I have in my meal, that can add a lot of calories as well, because there's more calories in fat compared to protein and carbs. So it's all those little things add up, and that's what we're trying to do in the reverse diet. We want to remove the guesswork. We still want to stick to a strategy so we don't regain fat quickly. So you can continue to track from your calorie deficit right up until you kind of find your sweet spot, like at your maintenance. And then from there, if you're eating like similar meals every day and things like that, you can sort of either loosely track or not track at all if you're eating like similar things or you're pretty confident in your knowledge. But for now, we're still tracking calories, we're still tracking macros, whilst focusing on the nutrients and the nutrient density in our meals. So I'm gonna eat my lunch and then I'll check in with you next for my snack. Hello, my friends. It is snack time and time for the next step I'm going to teach you about, which is so important in a reverse diet. We have our beautiful friend Skyr. I literally have this snack like every day. And sometimes I also have it for brekkie. So we're gonna do 200 grams of Skyr. Okay, so the next step, the next tip is to use your biofeedback to make decisions about what to do next in your reverse diet. So what do I mean by biofeedback? Basically, tracking your scale weight, doing progress photos, and also measurements. And that's the same way you would do it if you're in a calorie deficit. That's what I do with my clients. When they're going through a fat loss phase, a calorie deficit, we track their measurements, their scale weight, and also progress photos, because one of those metrics on their own isn't enough to give you enough data to make decisions. We want to make decisions about what to do next in the reverse diet from the feedback that we're getting from our body. And this has been really important for me in my case, specifically for this reverse diet, because in an ideal world, I finish my reverse diet at the end of November. So you would typically expect for my calories to be back to my maintenance calories by now, which essentially they're not, that they are still lower. And that's because I finished my photo shoot and diet at the end of November, and for the whole of December I had so many socials, and then in January I had exactly the same. So I've had all these different social events to contend with, and with that, because I've had these social events to contend with, there's been so many times where my scale weight has shot up by like 4 pounds. And if I just went off scale weight alone, then I would think that I've ruined the reverse diet and I've gained all this weight. And I hadn't, because when we looked at my progress photos, we can literally see that that isn't the case at all. And even in some weeks when I was due on my period, or even on my period, it looked like, again, I'd like ruined my progress, but it's because I've got this water weight and water retention. So it's really important to not just look at one variable, and that's where progress photos, measurements, and also looking at it over a few weeks is really important to make decisions. So because I've had all of these social occasions, I've not really had chance to bring my calories back up yet, because I've kind of been eating a little bit lower calories during the week. So like I'm still basically, I've been in a deficit essentially during the week, because I've had these really big socials at the weekend, times away, my birthday, all these different things. So now that I don't have too much ahead, like I don't really have any big socials coming up, I'm probably going to increase my calories now, probably on a weekly basis, whereas they've kind of just stayed the same. I say they've stayed the same. They've not stayed the same since post-diet. They are a little higher, and higher because I've been eating more at the weekend. But I mean, across the week, I'm going to be able to increase my total calories now, week by week, because I'm not going to have these big social events influencing my progress. Because again, that also impacts how I make a decision in terms of whether I increase my calories or how I'm looking and all these different things. So for now, they've kind of stayed the same, really. We're definitely higher compared to my diet calories, but I'm not quite back to maintenance yet because of these socials. But what has made that decision is the feedback that I've gotten from my measurements, my progress photos, and my scale weight, and looking at all of that together. And here she is, my friend. So we've got 200 grams of Skyr, which I like a lot more compared to 0% Greek yogurt. My boyfriend actually got me on Skyr because he's just a little fiend for it. and has like a huge gigantic yogurt bowl the size of my head every day. But in there I've got 200 grams of skyr, 115 grams of strawberries, I think it was, 60 grams of blueberries, and 15 grams of granola and 5 grams of honey. So that is going to keep me nice and full now until I have my evening meal. Then I'm going to check in with you again very soon after this. And this one isn't food related, so I'm going to eat this and then I'll check in with you for the next step.
We want to make sure in a reverse diet we're still being very intentional with our movement. So I'm currently on my walking pad. This is my desk setup basically for when I want to walk and work at the same time, which is so good for getting my steps in, especially in winter, because yeah, it's not great. Not that you can't get your steps in if it's raining, like, girl, put on a coat, okay? I think that holds a lot of people back a lot of the time in terms of like, oh, it's raining, it's cold, blah, blah, blah. Although what we don't joke about and what we do need to take seriously is women's safety. So I'm not gonna go out for a walk when it's dark and on my own. I will during the day, but in winter when it's dark at like, 3, 4, 5 p.m, I'm not going out on my own then. So a walking pad, if you've got one, if you can get one, oh my God, it's so good for getting your steps in. And this is all part of me still being intentional with my movement throughout the day and still having a step goal post diet is me being intentional with my movement, because weight regain or fat regain doesn't just happen from eating more. I mean, it can be, but a lot of the time post diet, it mostly comes from eating more in terms of eating more than your maintenance calories and also doing less movement compared to what you was doing in your dieting phase. So for example, if during your diet phase you were doing 10,000 steps a day, but then you drop back to doing like 4,000 steps, which is what you might have been doing before you diet phase, and you start eating more and start eating over your maintenance, that's when you're going to be in a calorie surplus and you're going to regain the weight. So in my diet phase, I was doing 10,000 steps a day, and towards the end of my dieting phase, I was doing 5 25-minute cardio sessions a week. Now post diet, we've kept my steps exactly the same at 10,000, but now I'm only doing 3 cardio sessions a week. And that for me at the minute is manageable within my week. 10,000 steps a day is manageable, and so is 3 cardio sessions. And manageable also doesn't mean easy. That's why I've got a walking pad. I am sat down for most of the day. So if I'm not intentional about it, I don't go on my walking pad, I don't think about parking further away or just getting extra steps in throughout the day, I won't hit my 10,000 steps. Now I'm at maintenance, we've removed some of those cardio sessions. Those extra sessions were just there to create more of an energy deficit whilst I was in a fat loss phase. That wasn't there to maintain my body weight, whereas doing 3 cardio sessions a week and 10k steps is manageable. And for what my progress pictures are showing and my scale weight showing, again linking it back to the biofeedback, that energy output for me right now is the sweet spot. And we may drop it down maybe like 1 more in terms of the cardio sessions, but we will keep some in there. We need it for our heart health, girlies. And I think it's also important to say these things can be interchangeable. So let's say it's actually only realistic for me to get 8k steps a day and that's the max that I can do. I would then have to alter my calorie goal and drop my calories a little bit lower to maintain where I currently am. It just so happens that at the minute, with the calories that I'm eating, the exercise that I'm doing, and my daily output, like my steps, my energy expenditure, that is giving me the results that I want it to at the minute. And it's also manageable and achievable for my current lifestyle, because that's also important. I'll check in with you again when it's time for my evening meal and we'll talk about the final step.
Sometimes microwave veg and microwave rice is just the way. And sometimes it's necessary because it means we're still getting a balanced, satiating meal. In an ideal world, we wouldn't need to use microwave rice and microwave veg, but it's not an ideal world and I'm busy. So this is people's worst nightmare, but chicken, rice and veg. Leftovers for tomorrow for my lunch. There we have it, my friends, and I'll add a little bit of sauce to that as well. Might be boring, but it's simple, it's easy, I'm still working, and it's gonna do what it needs to do. Protein, carbs, fibre and micronutrients from the veg.
And again, another healthy, satiating, balanced meal. I've just added a little bit of sriracha mayo and some pepper. And there we have it. Hello, my friends. It's the next day. I've just finished a very intense leg session and 30 minutes on the Stairmaster. So I'm sweaty and dishevelled. So just bear with me. Didn't give you my last tip last night, just to round off the video essentially. And what I wanted to go through is with reverse dieting, it's just some things that I want you to know and to keep in mind, just to manage your expectations. In a reverse diet, it is perfectly normal still to gain a little bit of body fat back after dieting, because at the end of the day, we're not robots. We can add all these measures in, like tracking our food, tracking our steps, doing all the right things. At the end of the day, we're still living our life. We've still got social occasions. And even if you're as disciplined as you can be, which for me, I have been in this reverse diet, I've gained a little since my photo shoot, but barely anything. Like I showed you those photos earlier on in the video. I'm really happy with where my physique's at, but my lowest scale weight, I think I'm actually at my lowest, I'm 153 pounds at the moment. For my shoot, I got down to 149. So what have I gained? 4 pounds. So there's been a little bit of a gain there, but barely anything. And I'm actually really happy with how my physique's looking. That's one thing to keep in mind, that you might just gain a couple of pounds. That's totally normal. Depending on you, your genetics, what you've got going on, there's so many factors in all of this. It will depend, but it's likely that you're not going to stay at that perfect number that you finished at after you cut. It's just normal to gain a few pounds, especially with water weight anyway. Finally, I feel like a question that loads of people will probably ask is when do you stop reverse dieting? And there isn't a straightforward answer. For me, with my situation, this reverse diet has been going on for a long time for me, because I've had so many social occasions. The thing is, with a reverse diet, you're trying to control so many variables. When you've got social occasions all the time, it's same when you're losing fat, but it takes people longer than they think it's going to take them, because they have a life. You have social occasions, you have these things come up. If you could look at your diary and go, right, for 12 weeks I'm doing nothing, then it would be so smooth. Whether, you're in a calorie deficit or whether you're doing a reverse diet, it would be so smooth. But life doesn't work that way. We're people, we're human. And most of us, we're not athletes. It's not like we're being employed by a team. A lot of us just want to feel good in our own skin and feel confident and look strong and all these different things. So yeah, we just have to account for different variables. But for me, it's taken a little longer than expected, but because I don't have too many big socials coming up, me and my coach now, we're probably going to increase my calories more week to week, because we can control the variables more. You can keep adding calories back until you kind of see that, big spike in the scale weight, or your measurements start to change, or your progress photos start to change and a little bit more fluffy, and you're like, right, okay, that's putting me in a surplus. It's so individual of when you stop, because my calories are going to be completely different to your calories, because we're completely different people. And I know that's a bit of a fluffy answer. You just need to make sure that you're not continuing to lose fat, to lose weight and things to drop, because then you are in a calorie deficit, you're in an energy deficit, you're not sat at maintenance. If the scale weight is dropping, if your measurements are dropping, then you know that you're still in a calorie deficit and you do need to keep adding calories in. And the thing is, you'll just see everything kind of plateau in a way that where your scale will probably stay within a range. It'll have a lower range and a higher range. What I mean by that is, obviously, as women, we'll gain 2 to 3 pounds, sometimes 4 pounds on our cycle, or if we have a big meal, we'll see it spike. But you're probably going to sit between a weight range. And then, you know, even use things like your clothes. How are your clothes fitted? What do your progress pictures look like? Once you can look at them across a few weeks and go, I pretty much look the same here. My weight's stabilizing, my measurements are kind of the same, then you know you're at maintenance. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments about reverse dieting or just any questions in general, let me know. And I will see you all soon.